So, Steve, you want to present what you're doing up there?
Sure. Do you have access to the plat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Sir. What we're doing is there's a lot of lease sites that were previously platted for hangars. And there, for the last number of years, there's been very little interest in new hangar lots. Now we get COVID and everything that's going on in real estate in towns like ours and similar type settings. Huge demand for real estate. That is carried through to hangar lots. So we've had an unprecedented demand, interest in more hangar lots for lease at the airport. We had an existing plat map, of course, certificate of survey, and we want to modify it slightly. The reason we want to modify it is we're also building an additional taxiway. Some of the sites, many of the sites, available hangar lots were there, they were platted on the subdivision chart, but there was no taxiway access to those hangars. So that made them difficult to lease or difficult for us, someone to come and say, boy, I'd sure like to get a lot at the airport. So this is where they are. Well, how do I get my airplane out? So we, the airport board, have embarked upon a new taxiway construction in 2 stages. It goes down between 2, I'm not sure how best to, oh, I see, you've got one over here, Kelly.
Yeah, I've got one over here and then one over there too.
Yeah, so there is, if you start on the left, there's a row, hangar row 17. Do you all see that? Yeah. And then hangar row 16, then 15, 14 as you go east. We're building a taxiway between 17 and 16, those rows, which are on the north side of the taxiway. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody see that? And in order to facilitate, well, it's a long story. The 4 lots, excuse me, the 3 lots behind in 17 and 4 lots in 16 are vacant. Correct. Make sense? They're not currently leased. Actually, they are leased now, but there's not a hangar on any of those. We just let those. We've let 4 lots, 2 in 17, which are the northernmost 2, and 2 of the 4 in 16. Yeah. Well, actually, the 2 in the middle are not. Yeah, they're open. Those other 2. So we have a taxiway going down through there. What we wanted to do was, on the original plat, there was an additional lot on the north end of 17 and north end of 16, which we have chosen to remove because of access to that diagonal runway. So that's one change. We took those lots out. Another change we did was we moved the lots. It's kind of a long story. There's a hangar currently at 16F and 17F, which are the southernmost in row 17 and row 16. Make sense, you guys?
16F.
Yeah, which is the one right adjacent to the taxiway, and then just to your left, Kelly, that hangar site. Those are 2 hangars exist on those lots. They presently exist. One issue we had when those lots those hangars were built, they were built too far to the north by about 20 feet. Through the fault of no one, that's just the way it was. There wasn't a lot of. In 2012, the other lots were not designated. There was just that row designated. So what we want to do is move in row 16, the 4 lots north of the existing hangar. We want to move those lots 20 feet to the north, because the hangar currently on 16F is over the property line. So we want to maintain the setbacks as James has pointed out, the city subdivision. So that's the second change, okay? If you now go down to 14, keep going to the east, to your left, row 14, there are 2 hangars currently in existence on the southernmost lots. Make sense to you guys? The one issue there was the second one up, the second one to the north, which is that's Andy Tiesel's day, what's that number? That one.
I'm looking for
9
the
a.m.
number on.
9, I think.
9.
Yeah,
9,
it says
thank
9.
you, 9. That lot, let me back up. Some of the lots, existing lots at the airport encompass the hangar building that exists. Some lots do not. That's the way things happen. That's the way they are. That makes sense. In other words, the building is the lot. On those 2, that was the case. That's currently the case. The second one to the north there, 9, has a drain field, a long existing drain field, which had been, or currently is, outside the existing property line. So what we propose is to extend that lot to the north to encompass the ground that has the drain field. Yes, sir.
In the cases where you're enlarging in that, is that impacting the lease rate as well then?
It will impact the lease rate. The lease rate, everyone, is predicated on the size of the lot, not the size of the building that's constructed on that lot. We're also expanding in attempts to make setbacks available or in place. We're extending those 2 lots actually on 3 sides. That lots 9 and, I'm sorry, which?
5.
5, yeah, 5.
It's 9 to 5?
No, fair, I don't have a chart. Yeah. 5 and 9, thank you. 5 and 9. So they're enlarging slightly. All right. On the,
And I presume that the hangar owners are aware of the upcoming change in
Yes, they
their
are.
annual lease payment.
yes, they are. Now let's the next change. If you go south of the taxiway, in row 11, lot A is currently has a hangar, an existing hangar. That was Wally Zook's, now owned by Bo Ewald. The 2 lots south of A are B and C. Those are both leased by Bill Morian. There are currently no buildings on either of those lots. Those lots originally 80 by 80. What Mr. Morian requested was, could we expand? He wanted to build a bigger hangar, and in order to facilitate the setbacks, he said, "Can I have a bigger lot?" So what we did was we extended the south lot line by about 40 feet, the east lot line by 15. So that lot is now 120 by 95. Lot B is also extended, but only to the east. It's still 80 feet north-south, but it's 95 feet east-west. let me see. Those are the requested changes. Again, it doesn't affect the layout of the lot. It doesn't affect the total size of the subdivision by any means. It doesn't encroach on taxiways or other lots or runways.
Steve, this past summer when we had all the fires and the fire crews were here and the Forest Service and so on, there was some talk about putting in some fuel tanks up there at the airport to support future, and the way the climate's going, we're almost sure to have more forest fires in this area. How would this affect that, or would it?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Where the fire crews staged were on the east end of the property, just adjacent to White and Airport Avenues. That's where their helicopters landed. That's where their portable fuel was, and their support people and
Right.
their trailers and things.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just wondering about if they were to, if the airport were to install permanent fuel tanks for, particularly for
For fire.
emergency and fire and so on, would this impact that at all?
The changes that were
Yeah.
proposed, no.
Okay.
There's currently an avgas fuel farm already at this location that is a more permanent, it's above ground, but it's a permanent structure. Presumably could be one there for jet, which is what the helicopters use. But right now they just bring it in. Most of them are private companies, so they actually bring in, and that's not just here, that's everywhere. They bring in their own fuel for their needs.
There are two types of aviation fuel. There's 100 low lead, which reciprocating
Yeah.
airplane motors use, and then there's jet fuel, which is
Diesel.
kerosene.
Well, I understand that. I was just concerned that what I thought I heard during the discussion by the fire crews was that they needed a substantial amount of fuel in place here in the future.
Well, and I think if that came out under discussion, the area where that would be requested would probably be down there where they staged this summer.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Any other questions from the table?
I've heard of all these changes hanging around for a couple of years now, so this is just formalizing something that has been discussed and talked about dating back when Wally was having these conversations. So this is not a new thought process by any means. It's just finalized and looking for officiality.
Jody?
How many new leases have you gotten in the last 2 years since we've had the increase in the real estate market and people moving here from all over?
We've had 5.
5.
Well, 6 actually, if you count Bill Morian's 2.
And that's really in the last year even. That's not even.
4 of
the last
those,
2 years.
well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's really been the last year, probably, Jody.
Are you going to have room to expand? How many empty ones do you have?
We're gonna have, if you look at row 14, oh, I'm sorry, that was one additional change, which I failed to mention. The 4 lots in the north part of row 14, those have been moved to the north 30 feet to facilitate the boundary change on Andy Tietzel's lot 9 expansion of his lot to encompass his drain field. So, Jody, your question, those 4 lots will
That's it.
be available.
Welcome.
There's also over on the east side in row, I can't see it. If you look at row 14, what's the line east of row 14?
12.
12, thank you. Okay, mine's too small. So 12 has also has some lots available for future. We're going to have an issue there because currently there's no taxiway there. The taxiway only extends to those first 2 hangars, 5 and 9. So that's another challenge for us to come up with funding going forward to gravel, grading, and paving to make those lots viable.
And that's part of what I believe is spurring the growth too, as we're starting to build out these taxiways, it makes it accessible so people can now put a hangar there that they can actually use.
Yeah, it makes it much more attractive.
Nice your cheese off.
Pete?
This to me is part of our growth process where things that were done in the past, were done with all the best intentions, and here a group of men and women are doing it correctly, adjusting it, and bringing it up to speed. It reminds me a lot of Diamond Sea Links when the developers understood that the golf course fairways and greens were actually platted incorrectly, and they took it upon themselves to make adjustments. And I think this is an example of that, of things that have been in gray areas are now being focused And I think it's an attribute to the airport group to take this upon themselves and bring it to us in this extremely accurate presentation.
Any more comments from the table? Comments from the public? Comments from the public? Carry it forward to the meeting tonight? Okay, thanks, Steve.
Okay, you bet. Thank you.
That went pretty quick. We do have a couple people that wanted to speak sometime tonight. One of them's a pool update, and another one's an update on HR. So, Al, do you want to give us an update on pool? Get it done.
Thank you for the opportunity, Council and Mr. Mayor. I sent out a summary here a couple of days ago of where we are, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to ask questions. But as of today, our number is $1,070,055 in cash and pledges to the pool. We've had 483 individuals contribute, and we have 6 pledges that are outstanding. 2 of those pledges will be paid when the council approves phase 2, when the bids come in. Hopefully that'll be early in November. And the other 4 are long-term and would be paid out until 2024. As a practical matter, those long-term pledges may go to the endowment. That we're hopeful that that's where they'll go. Here recently, and I think we sent this to you, the mayor, in order to try to get the pool house closed in so that we could perhaps work on it during the winter interior. Again, that would, the interior would be part of phase 2. We submitted a change order, and the change order was for $155,000. And that allowed us to extend the phase 1 to include the extension of the pool house. And all that will do is enclose that front end part. I think I sent you a picture of that, but this is what the front end will look like when it's finished. And we're talking about that extension that goes, this part right here that just goes towards the school. And the idea for that $155,000 will enclose that, put a roof on it, won't finish the outside, but it'll enclose it so that once the council approves phase 2, we can continue work in the winter. To date, of that essentially 1.1 million, we've given 325,000 towards phase 1, and we've paid bills in the order of 56,000 towards phase 2. So we're moving along. Right now, we have $112,000 in cash, plus the pledges, so I think we can cover the 155 pretty easily. There have been some challenges, weather being one, and also there have been some slight price increases, but it's still within the manageable contingency that we predicted so far. I will say this, that Interstate Engineering, particularly Brent, has been very, very cooperative and very helpful. And he has told me that the bids for phase 2 should go out within the next couple of days. And hopefully we'll be in front of the council late October, early November for your approval for phase 2, which again will be the interior of the pool house, splash deck, water slide, maybe a pergola. So that's kind of where we are, and I just wanted to give the opportunity to have you ask me any questions you need to ask. The other thing that's come up, and I've talked to the mayor about it, is that we're beginning to think about the operational status of the pool. And we're going to apply for a grant, Sunderland grant, that requires us to give them an operational plan and a long-term financial picture, 5 years. So we're going to work on that, put a proposed plan in front of staff before we submit it to, Sunderland. So, any questions or comments or problems or issues? I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions from the table? Teresa?
Okay, yeah. Will,
I'm having trouble hearing you with
will
that.
Parks Board and also Public Works have some input to your
I'm sorry?
operational plan? Public Works and Parks Board, will you consult them and involve them in your operational?
Well,
plan?
we have sent, the Parks Board all of our information, and Jim, of course, is in the loop in terms of anything that we do, operationally. So, in all that, when I say in front of staff, that would include Jim and James and the mayor.
Teresa?
Errol, one more. So, with this, Friends of the Pool event, an endowment,
Yeah.
have you sorted that out yet and decided?
Yes,
which-
we have. The
Debbie,
Friends
where
of the
that'll
Pool is an independent fundraising organization of us. We've offered them full cooperation, and so what they're gonna do is have an independent fundraising event, and then the people that donate to that will determine whether they want it to go to phase 2 or the endowment. And then once those monies come in, the foundation then will assign those dollars either to our phase 2 account or to the endowment. So, but it is an independent fundraising event, but we have coordinated with them and offered them any help, and in terms of the plans, the pictures, all that stuff, we've offered them.
Any other comments from the table? Questions?
Okay, the other thing I need to say is that we are weather dependent. Langlis says, right now, they're running about 28 days behind the original schedule. They've assured me that they're gonna catch up. I think we need to understand that, they're counting on doing quite a bit of work in the spring. That's weather dependent. And there, as I said, there have been some cost, increases that I think we're within our window right now. But to meet the June 16th date, that Langlis has given us, at our last meeting, 2 Thursdays ago, they assured me that that date was still alive. My cynic meter is starting to jump up a little bit. So I think we just have to understand that we're doing the best we can under the conditions that we have. So, when people ask us when the pool's opening, I'm telling them we're still on schedule. The splash deck will not be finished until July 4th, but the pool will open before the splash deck is ready. Okay?
Any more questions for Al?
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Any questions from the public? Thank you, Al.
Good, thank you.
You can leave if you want. You got another meeting to go
No,
to.
I think I got another meeting here in a few minutes.
Pete, you want to give us a report on HR?
Yes, I had a meeting with the county about 10 days ago, and they're, Angela, and she expressed that the county, as she was representing the county, was very receptive to an interlocal agreement where we could use the services of their HR specialist on an on-call basis, as needed basis, and as available basis. And so they were interviewing the applicants last week, and I have an email into her asking her what their update is. And I want to bring this to the council. I think it's an excellent opportunity for us to have access to someone who is right on the point of all the new regulations without having a full-time employee. And the rate that they would charge us is still to be determined. But I think this is a great opportunity for us to take a load off of some of the folks in the office, and also avoid some future problems that we may not even be aware of are on our way.
Any questions for Pete? Teresa?
How would the city pay for this? Even, I know it's not been determined what share or what cost, but how would we do that?
First of all, Lonnie and I talked we belong to A&E right now, and we're gonna go ahead and cancel that. That contract will come up January, is when that usually comes up.
Yeah, and that's $600 right there, and I don't know the last time I've even called them. We do have through MMIA, we do have an HR person through there that we have called many, many times, and they're very helpful. But it would be nice to have somebody local that, you know, we can sit down with them if something comes up.
And we're at no minimum retainer, it's just when we need it.
Right. So, you know, if it was, if it had to do with one of the other departments and we depleted the $600, that would come out of that department's budget.
$600 a month.
No, a
It
year.
was
A year. Oh.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Pete? Teresa?
Would we need, I guess, I'm just wondering about the path forward, so,
I can't hear you.
just wondering about the path forward. So in an interlocal agreement, we would have to do something here to say that we would intend to follow that. And then, I guess if there's no minimum, it's just as needed, and that would be helpful.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And she also mentioned as available too, which is respectful for their workload. So if we called on a Tuesday and their HR specialist was tied up till Thursday, we would just have to expect that.
Okay.
And you said that they interviewed people last week.
That's correct, but I don't know
What
the outcome of that yet.
They did make an offer.
Oh, good.
The person is out of state, so it's gonna be a while before.
And I was aware of the basic profiles of the individual, so, from what I understand, all three are exceptionally qualified. And, so if one of them did get the offer, that's terrific.
Yeah, good. Teresa?
Is this an officer, even if it's part-time and hourly as needed, is this the type of an officer the city mayor would need to announce at the beginning of the year? If
No.
you have an interlocal agreement? No,
It'll be an interlocal agreement for a certain period of time.
okay,
And then
completely separate from.
a lot of them are just ongoing, but if you want to open it up again, you have a certain time period where you can open that interlocal agreement up again.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll close the meeting. It's exercise time.
We go around, no.
Well, I'm not confident.
Did I do it?
Yep. There you go. Because we got extra.
closed. Thank you.
Everybody's phones are on silent. Or do not disturb. Fortunately, Kelly's was just on do not disturb. I'm driving, so she got my text message.
Yeah, I saw it right now. I'm looking it down.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. Tyler, will you lead us, please?
Yeah. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done. Roll call.
Larson,
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Eaton,
Here.
Lyman,
Here.
Ronnie. Here. Westwood,
Here.
Woodward.
Here.
Minutes of September 14th.
I move to approve the minutes of the working session on September 14th.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie. Yes. Westwood,
Yes.
Woodward.
I would like to make a motion to approve the regular session minutes from September 14th.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Westwood,
Yes.
Woodward.
Yes.
And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the working session on September 28th.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Westwood,
Yes.
Woodward.
Yes.
Thank you. Warrants payable.
Move to approve the warrants payable in the amount of $273,842.13.
Second that.
Give us a quick overview.
Sure. The big check was to COP Construction for our water and sewer rehab project. It was payment number 1 in the amount of $93,597.88. And when I talked to Lonnie, she said that will set into motion the loan that we had approved at our prior council meeting. Everything else was pretty much in line. We did also pay Interstate Engineering a payment. I think it was Great West, I'm sorry. Great West Engineering of $35,000 for all of the engineering work they've been doing for our water and sewer rehab project. So we do it right.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Eaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Westwood,
Yes.
Woodward.
Yes.
Officer reports. Chief.
Good evening. Currently, right now, I have one potential applicant that has met several hurdles of the background investigation and psychological evaluation, so he's moving right along. Should be starting here hopefully soon. He wants to know how fast he can get up to Red Lodge from Texas, so we're really happy to have him. And right behind him is our second hire. And things are actually starting out for him this week in terms of background investigation and everything else. Really quick, I wanted to touch on, there were some questions regarding the invoice to the Sheriff's Office for the Hells Angels National Motorcycle Run. What we were looking at in our planning phase, which was about 6 months before the event, we were looking at anywhere from a $15,000 to $25,000 bill. A lot of that cost, most of that cost was assumed through the Sheriff's Mutual Aid Program. Originally, what we thought was gonna happen was that the city was going to assume the cost of a lot of the, increased police presence. Through the mutual aid program, it's a state law, and the Sheriff McQuillan can answer this better than I can, but there is a law in place where the sheriff himself can request mutual aid from other county agencies. And that is primarily what our personnel consisted of. So it was pretty much like 3 police officers and sheriff's deputies, to put it simply. The end cost with what we were looking at, we were originally looking at about a $20,000 to $25,000 bill. We were able to get that down to $6,338.39, which is basically the cost of an in-car police computer. So I just wanted to answer any questions. If anybody had any questions for me that I can answer regarding this program or the invoice itself, I'm happy to do so right now. Any questions that I can't answer regarding the mutual aid program to the Sheriff's Department, I would have to direct you to Sheriff McQuillan. Does anybody have anything for me regarding this invoice?
Any questions for the chief? Good job.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Mayor's comments, special event committee update.
Yes, there's 3 of us on the committee, and Jody, Kelly, and myself, and we're ably helped by the city attorney and our director of planning. We've had several meetings. I think tonight I'll say a few words and ask the other 2 individuals to say a few words also. We've had a great discussion. We've rolled around some ideas. A lot of them are coming back to be concentric in regards to certain issues. We are planning a public forum for the 25th of October. And at that point, we're looking forward to presenting our initial list of resolutions, not legal resolutions, but resolutions to address these issues. And at that point, on the 25th, the evening of the 25th, we are also anticipating and welcoming any input from the public who would attend that Roosevelt Center forum on the 25th.
I don't know if I have too much to add, except that, as Pete said, we've met several times, and we've put together a list of ideas that we have as some possible solutions for some of or for events in Red Lodge. I think it's important to remember that we're trying to think about all events in Red Lodge, not just specific events in Red Lodge. And I do encourage anyone and everyone to please come to that forum on the 25th. So that's 2 weeks from yesterday, and it'll be at the Roosevelt Center, and I believe that we're starting at 6 o'clock. And so what we're still working out the details of how that will look, but what the initial ideas are that we'll have tables, maybe 6 to 8 different tables, that after we establish some ground rules and make sure we're all on the same page of how we're going to act that evening, that we will have 6 or 8 different tables that each have a different theme or idea, or, so noise at one, or, any kind of all the different possible solutions, and then have people go to pick 3 tables that they want to go to and discuss with other people from the public. And so we'll have kind of a moderator at each table that will take notes and kind of keep the discussion moving along. And then we'll do that 3 times throughout the night and 20 minutes at each table. So then people can pick 3 things that they really want to chat about with other community members and lend their ideas to. And then after that event, then we'll come up with the next steps after that, which I'm not entirely sure what they are. This is a learning process as we go. So, but I think it's important for us to, and we all agree that we want the public to be involved and we want public input.
I don't really have much more to add. It's just, I think it's very important that everyone who is a event organizer or a downtown business as well as the general public that's affected by our events, please attend. This will be your chance to have input and know what's going on in our community.
And if you can't attend, then please do. Of course, we'll take written comments and ideas and suggestions if you can't attend that evening. And again, I don't think it's going to be the last opportunity either. I don't think it's going to be wrapped up in a nice little bow at the end of October 27th. So.
Never will be.
So I think it's just, as we said before, in the beginning of this is going to be a longer process, and that's on purpose too. I think.
Our intention is to keep this flowing quickly, but comprehensively. And so we are exploring all possibilities for this forum to garner as much information and ideas and suggestions as we can from the public. So again, we encourage anyone who can attend to do so.
All right. Dave?
I have a question. Can we make sure that that gets publicly noticed, not just so that everybody's aware of it, so that we can safely have all council members go and hear that information?
Oh, that was our,
We already have that
absolutely.
planned out.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Let's move on to appointment of a council member to T-bid. As we were going through the renewal process for T-bid, we realized that we had nobody assigned to that. As far as a council person, and I would like to have Jody Roney as our council representative with council approval on T-bid.
I move to approve the mayor's selection of Jody Ronning as the council member on T-bid.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Fratelli,
Yes.
Key,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes.
Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Public comments. Anyone may address the council at this time on any topic within the city's jurisdiction, not specifically on the agenda. As we normally do, if you're in the audience, you can step up to the podium. Please give us your name and tell us if you live in the city or out of the city. Same with people on GoToMeeting. Please illuminate your microphone if you have a question or a comment, and state the same way. So, public comment. And it is kept at 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah, mine's way shorter. Chris Mulaney, I live in the city down on Hagen. I just want to thank Jody Ronning and Kelly Keaton and Pete Fratelli as, council members for really getting on the special events committee, and really, you had good work there, and I've already forgotten Pete. Working really promptly and quickly to come with some ideas that we can move forward on this. I think the 9 ideas show a lot of promise. I had a couple comments, but I'll save them for the forum, because I will definitely be there. And that was one of them. And other than that, thanks for plowing the roads today. We at least got here in our cars.
Any other public comments?
Yes, I do.
I live at 619 North Villard, and I also just want to thank the Special Events Committee for what you've come up with and what you've been doing. It sounds like a great idea, and thanks to the City Council for doing this. I think we need to get on this problem. Thank you.
We have somebody up. We'll go to meeting. What was your name again, for the record?
Jerry Fernthal.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Yes, Mr. Smith?
Yes, my name is Rhett Smith. I'm a resident of the city. And look, thank you very much to the Special Events Committee for doing what you're doing. I looked at the agenda materials, and there on page 5, there was a list of, I think, 10 items or something, and I thought that was from the committee. So that's not your complete list. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry. That is the 9 items that are on page 5 are the ideas from the committee. And we're hoping that at the forum on the 25th that there will be many more ideas from the public, and as well as feedback on those 9 ideas. And again, if you can't attend on the 25th, if you have feedback on the 9 ideas and or your own ideas, you can send them to the members of the special event committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
And just kidding, it was page 12.
Any other public comments? Okay, we shall move on. Old business, ordinance 952, amending resort tax administrative ordinance, public hearing. We'll open the public hearing. Any comments from the public on the resort tax administrative ordinance? Comments from the public? Comments from the public? Bring it back to the table. I'll entertain a motion for the second reading.
Move, get to the title, I apologize. Move to approve ordinance number 952, first amended, an ordinance replacing chapter 4 of title 2 of the Red Lodge Municipal Code Administrative Ordinances governing the collection and reporting of resort tax revenue, second reading.
Discussion. Dave?
I was just going to go ahead and say that I have confirmed there was a specific one that I was getting the wording to James. We got that, and I was able to confirm that that is in the version that we have. And I'm aware that Teresa had identified several others, so I will let her go through it.
All right. Well,
That's my job, Dave. Teresa, did you have a question?
yes, please. Thank you. So, just a couple things. On 2412, I know it was possibly hard to capture, but I read out verbally that it should be a business or organization in the first sentence, and again in the last sentence, payable by the business owner or organization, and somehow that got truncated in each case to just organization. So I don't know if anybody has issue with that, or if the way that I believe we approved it that night was businesses and organizations.
Yeah, that is, I remember that. Are you talking about in 2412, the last sentence of the second, the very last sentence?
The very first sentence should be, I think what I read out was any business or organization.
Yes.
Because there are cases where a nonprofit would have to pay or appeal. And then the last sentence, any amount found to be due and payable by the business or organization shall be immediately payable.
Are you agreeable to that?
I think procedurally, we're just approving what was previously approved, is just noting that the documentation, it's like a spelling error.
You know, and I do have to say, it was a mess. I mean, Lonnie and Danae had to listen to that. I don't know how many times, and James had his notes, and, you know, I'm sorry if we missed something there, but if that's what you want in there, we'll be more than happy to do that. So, Teresa, if you want to get with Lonnie afterwards and make sure that we get it correct. So we'll just make that as an addition.
And then I had one other question about 2413. We had a lengthy discussion about what comprises the committee, right? And we discussed the fact that there was no city council appointed liaison, non-voting, and that was added, so that's not a problem. The other correction for the Carbon County registered voters clears up that they're either going to live in the city or the county, so that took care of that. But what we did not discuss, and became obvious to me reading through this, was that makes a 6-member appointed committee, not 5. So the very first, there shall be a 5-member appointed committee, should be 6.
Is everybody good with that?
That is correct. Yep.
I didn't have anything else.
Any other discussion at the table? Discussion from the public. Roll call.
Fratelli,
Yes.
Keaton,
Yes.
Lyman,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes.
Westwood,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Ordinance 955, repealing ordinance 732, public hearing. We'll open that up. Any public comment on ordinance 955?
Hello, my name is Kristen Cargill. I live here in Red Lodge, and I submitted a letter to the city council people and the city attorney and the mayor. And I would just like to have that incorporated into the minutes of today's meeting. If you would, please. Thank you.
And I have given that to the city attorney, and he'll discuss that when we get that up for action.
Yes, well, sorry to do.
Any other public comments? Bring it back to the table. Take a motion.
Okay, I move to approve ordinance number 955, an ordinance of the city of Red Lodge, Montana, repealing city ordinance 732, an ordinance that amended section 2.10.060 of the municipal code of the city of Red Lodge, Montana, to provide a date for the appointment of city officers not otherwise provided for, and amending municipal code title 1, chapter 5.
Second that.
Second reading.
Discussion at the table.
This is exactly why we need an HR specialist.
Right.
This to me, I'm sure it's simpler than I'm making it, but it looks like a can of worms to me. And I don't know whether we're gonna get bitten in the tail by it. It's gonna be perfectly smooth. It's gonna come around to, cause us problems in the future. And I think it's not necessarily anyone's fault. It just has perpetuated itself. And now we're trying to fix it, and I hope we're fixing it correctly.
Teresa?
I see that I agree, it is can of worms, but, I think it ties back to the charter, which needs to be updated. We all understand that. Current MCA code, which implies to our city attorney that this is outdated, but also to a number of HR questions that are still open. So I'm not sure where to go with it myself right now. That's all I have to say. I think it's that we need a lot of cleanup across the board, starting with the city charter.
Dennison, can you give us a rundown on how we got where we're at and maybe answer some of Kristen's questions that she sent?
Of course. Mayor, members of the city council, it sounds like when you look at the issue that arose back in the 1980s, there's kind of two ways you can have an employee of the city. You can either have an employee of the city that's under contract for a term of years, or you can have an employee of the city who's not under contract for a term of years, but who's just an employee of the city. A lot of it depends on whether you have an employment for a term of years or just a regular city employee. A lot of it depends on what job that they're called to do. That's probably beyond the scope of this discussion here today. Because this discussion here today is just the city ordinance that was adopted in the 1980s only applies to city employees that are not under contract for a term of years. It's just city employees. And one of the problems with this city ordinance, and it says nothing more and nothing less than saying that every year the mayor will bring the department heads in front of the city council And the mayor or the department, or the city council can hire or fire department heads every year. Nothing more, nothing less. And that's incorrect under Montana statutes, because when we look under Montana statutes, once an employee of the city has passed their probationary period, they can no longer just be fired without cause. They can't, every year they can't be fired. It's just that you, to fire an employee, especially a department head, has to have just cause to fire them. And there's a large body of law that goes down that avenue. And it says nothing more than nothing less. Now, this idea that it might conflict with city charter, I don't understand that argument or that thought process, because the city charter also is very consistent with state statute. The state statute says, and the city charter says, department heads are appointed by the mayor and then confirmed by the city council. That's what the city charter says too. And they are. And there's not a conflict between those two. In vacant positions, the mayor appoints department heads and the city council can decide whether they want to approve them or not. And it's very simple and straightforward. So there's not a, right now though, under the city ordinance, every year the mayor gets to, purportedly, the mayor gets to decide every year whether he wants to keep people or not without cause. Every year the city council members also get to decide whether they want to have, I guess, fire any department head without cause, which is contrary to state statute. State statute says very clearly, if an employee and a department head wants to, if the city wants to terminate their employment, they have to have cause. And so this, removing the city ordinance, all it does, and once again, it does nothing more, nothing less, it doesn't arrange anything. All it does is makes the city's ordinances in line with the state statute. And that's all. That's all it does. If the city ordinance stays on the books, we've talked about this, I think, last time, if it stays on the books, what it does is it creates a situation where it would create a problem if the mayor decided every year he wants to terminate employment of the department heads without cause, because that's contrary to state statute. It'd also create a significant problem that implies liability to the city council also, for whatever reason, wanted to terminate employment with one of the department heads without cause, because that's also not what the statute says. And that's it. Any questions?
Go ahead, Jody.
I just wanted to ask you, this is different than having a contract employee.
This is 100%, and that's an interesting position, because this ordinance, there's two ways you can have a city employee. You can have a city employee who's a contract for a term of years, or a city employee who's not a contract for a term of years. And this city ordinance only applies to employees that are not under a contract for a term of years. So if a city employee is under contract for a term of years, this doesn't apply at all. So technically, it's only purporting to apply to individuals who are employees of the city, which the state statute says after you pass your probationary period, you cannot be terminated without just cause.
Teresa.
So I'd like to understand if this remains in our municipal code, that is 732, there's nothing that says the mayor must come out at the beginning of the year and parade for a vote the number of department heads that are employees, correct?
It does.
It says that the mayor must.
It does, and I'm reading it, the mayor, he shall, at the first regular meeting, it says that he must do this. Also, in the past, in reviewing the minutes of the council meetings, in the past, there have been council members that have voted against department heads in the past. And what that does is create significant liability for the city, because it may or may not be extremely contrary to state law. Well, it is, but any other questions?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Dave?
My position remains unchanged from our last time the conversation. I'll try to see if I can enunciate it a little bit better. I still see it as a conversation between two different and unrelated issues. The state law and several of the things were just referenced have to do with employment, as opposed to the charter and this ordinance, which have to do with titles. And by the way, they are separate. This ordinance does not say anything about hiring or firing. It only says appoint. And furthermore, the ordinance says nothing about department heads. The ordinance says appoint officers that have not been previously addressed. The charter, which we cannot change, that can only be changed by the voters, says that the mayor may, with consent of council, appoint, or I'll use my words, bestow the title of department head on individuals. I do not see the ordinance or the charter, either one, addressing or conflicting with employment. There are some cases that were provided that I think are very good examples of things that you cannot do because they qualify as taking away somebody's job indirectly, even if you don't take it away. But I don't see either the charter or this ordinance that addresses hiring and firing, rather just the bestowing of titles. So for that reason, I think this action is actually a knee-jerk reaction to a very emotionally charged discussion that happened a while back and probably should not have occurred in a public meeting in the first place. And I think there's a separate discussion, which is the questions we had asked for examples of what other municipalities have contracts versus employees. And we were able to chase down that information, several of us on our own. My personal opinion, not that it matters, is I think an employee is actually more protected as an employee because that guarantees perpetual employment unless there is a meaningful cause, which is defined by state law, as opposed to a contract has a built-in sunset day where you can just say, no, thank you, we're not re-upping it. And so as an individual, I would probably feel safer as an employee. There are some reasons to do contracts, and that was part of the answer we got. And that was basically if you wanted to have additional provisions for either the city or for the employee. The additional provisions that were in the existing contracts, most of them that I saw that were to the benefit of the employee were the ones that we ended up striking in the cases where they've come up before us. And so, again, I just don't want to confuse that conversation about employment with this conversation of bestowing titles. And specifically, this ordinance is only 2 sentences long. And just to clarify, he shall at the first, we need to fix that. The mayor shall at the first regular meeting of the council in January each year appoint, not hire or fire, appoint with the advice and consent of council all necessary officers of the city whose term of office is not otherwise provided for. There's nothing in there that says hire or fire to my reading. Thank you, Mayor.
Teresa?
What I've been reading into it is that, the advice and consent of the council, all necessary officers of the city whose term of office is not otherwise provided for. You've got employees that are already filling city offices, serving as officers. Their term is indefinite unless there's a wrongful, unless there's a reason for a just cause or a wrongful act. So I can't imagine any mayor that would come out and proclaim to appoint an officer that's already in place as an employee. However, there are provisions for the city council to examine and by 2/3 vote eliminate for wrongful cause employees. So I think that, I mean, there's been plenty to work with here. It's just, I don't see that this is, it's not a bad thing to leave in place, it's just maybe not necessary. If a mayor comes out and, unless I'm interpreting otherwise provided for, whose office is otherwise provided for. Seats are filled. We have officers.
Dave? I'd just like to add one last comment to Teresa's comment, because I had considered the possibility that ultimately it really didn't matter whether this ordinance got repealed or not, because we were still subject to the charter. What did change my opinion there was the distinction that the charter specifically refers to department heads, which is the title, and what the ordinance refers to as officers. And I did not feel those were necessarily universally the same thing. And that's why I still stand in opposition to repealing it, is because of those two pieces of words. What are you sharing with me for the public's purposes?
Officers.
Oh, yes. So this defines what positions of officers are. And we had looked that up last time. What I'm saying is the resolution discusses officers versus the charter discusses department heads. So those are two separate conversations and therefore two pieces of.
So again, our charter needs to be clarified as well. That's why I say I'm not sure what to do with this at this point.
Madison. Mayor, members of the city council, the only thing I would add to this conversation before taking questions from the city council and the mayor is that there was a discussion by one of the members about the difference between a title and hiring and firing. And I would like to advise the city that under the Supreme Court, on the last page of the memo that was provided, I think about 2 months ago, the Supreme Court said very clearly that individuals who are demoted, change of title, would be a constructive termination if that's the final act. And so titles are extremely important. Title is hiring and firing in employment law. Just throwing it out there.
Wait, can you please repeat that?
Absolutely. So what the Supreme Court has said, that an absolute and final termination from a managerial position followed by an offer of an inferior position may be a termination of employment for purposes of the act. What that means is that if, say, whatever happened, the mayor or the city council changes somebody's title from that of department head to that of not a department head. One of the city council members are saying that that's just a change of title, that's not a hiring and firing decision. However, the Supreme Court, under the Termination Act, has said that changing somebody's title from a managerial position to not a managerial position is a constructive termination. Thank you.
And I do have to say, after talking with Dan Clark, there was a situation in Butte Silver Bowl where the new mayor got elected, and he did, at the first meeting, get rid of several department heads, and it cost him quite a bit of money. But it has happened. There are people out there that do that.
Question.
Yes.
And that's always for Denison. So since it states in the ordinance, appoint, so if the council voted not to appoint that, if the mayor, then that's considered moving them down, promoting them, if they're not appointed per that ordinance. I just want clarification on that.
No, you're great. Mayor, members of the city council, and that is what I'm saying, is that is correct interpretation. For example, under this ordinance, every year, the department heads will be brought out, and that they will be appointed, and the city council could then confirm. For example, if a department head was brought forth, that for whatever reason, the mayor did not appoint them again, or the city council did not confirm them for whatever reason, that would likely be considered a constructive termination of their employment without just cause. And that would be a direct violation of the state statutes, which requires just cause for termination.
David.
And just to follow up with that, and then I agree, I've got the copy of that case in front of us, and I agree with that. Again, the ordinance that we're looking at does not address department heads. It addresses officers. And Teresa, if I could borrow your piece of paper for a moment. And the charter is what dictates actions regarding department heads. So the officers of a city include a city attorney, a city clerk, a city treasurer, a chief of police. So that is what is an officer, which is defined by Montana code and what is addressed in 732, that we appoint officers not otherwise provided for. Nothing in here says anything about department heads. We have all sorts of department heads who aren't on this list, and that's addressed by our charter. And do we need to revisit the charter? I think we're all in agreement that we do, and that there may be spots that need to be updated. But I don't see changing this ordinance impact that in any way. So thank you for having that readily available, Teresa.
Any more discussion at the table? Discussion from the public. Comments from the public, sorry.
Yeah, my name is Kristen Cogswell. I've been looking at this for a variety of reasons. But, so we have a minimum of 4 or 5 interpretations of what should be a fairly direct, straightforward thing that we should all be able to understand. And we all have 5 different interpretations of it. I think there's some space in between the city charter and the ordinances and the statutes. And I think that at least until we get to redo the charter or examine it, we need language that will bridge these gaps in a very clear fashion that will protect the city and will protect the employees of the city. I think that what Pete has researched and suggested, you know, we're looking at lawsuits either way here. And I am, you know, I don't have the background to be an expert on human resources law. I don't know that it's real fair to put it in Denison's lap alone, because we're looking at, I mean, back in 1985, they thought that this was very wise. They put a lot of time into it. The people who helped create the city charter put a lot of time into that. And, you know, I think it's out of all of our leagues to create the bridging language that we need to address all these concerns. So I think that it would be prudent to ask one of the human resource person. There shouldn't be a hurry. This has been on the books since 1985. So, I mean, I think we should just take a time out and get someone's opinion who's experienced with dealing with municipalities, the hiring contracts, and the law.
Any other public comment? Public comment? Roll call.
Fratelli.
No.
Keaton.
No.
Lyman.
No.
Ronnie.
No.
Westwood.
No.
Whistler.
No.
Thank you. Move on to resolution 3588, resolution of intent tourism business improvement district. This is up for action.
Move to approve resolution 3588, a resolution of the City Council declaring its intention to renewing a tourism business improvement district, TBID, constituting non-contiguous properties utilized for short-term lodging purposes who have voluntarily petitioned the City of Red Lodge to renew a TBID for the purpose of aiding tourism, promotion, and marketing within the district, and allowing hotels, motels outside the city limits to donate funds to the Tourism Business Improvement District for such purposes. And, nope, it's not a second reading, it's just a, nope, it's just a resolution. That's all right, thank you.
Discussion at the table. Dave?
I'll just add, we have a lot of public that wasn't here last time, so there was a presentation given last time, very well put together, overwhelming response for what is in essence a self-imposed tax for the purpose of marketing our town. And I said overwhelming, and what we're doing is just following the process that allows them to continue moving forward with that action.
Any other comment at the table? Teresa?
Just going to echo what Dave said. Everybody on the TBID committee did an excellent job pulling that together, and we had a really good discussion last time, and I appreciated that. Thank you.
Any other discussion at the table?
Just say that I agree wholeheartedly with Dave and Teresa.
James?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could, I'd just like to clarify that tonight is the resolution of intent. There will also have to be a resolution to create the district. There will be a newspaper notice that is ran in the paper this Thursday upon passage. Then there would be a 15-day protest period that would also, the newspaper article would, or advertisement would also be in the paper the following Thursday. The protest period would end October 29th. We could do the resolution as a discussion item October 26th, and then it would then pass November 9th. That would create the district 4 days before the current one expires. So on that, if we can keep on this schedule, we would get it done 4 days in advance of expiration.
Any other comment at the table? Comment from the public? Yes, Tulsa.
My name is Tulsa Dean, and I'm Vice President of TBID, and thank you for all being here tonight. I've been on the TBID board for 7 out of the 10 years, and I just wanted to say it is an assessment, it is not a tax. There's a big difference. It is volunteer for us to do this. It's public notice. I don't know if you have it through James. I dropped it off in the Carbon County newspaper. If you want a copy of this, I have a copy of that. And then also, we will mail this out tomorrow for the stakeholders within the city limits as well, for the letters. I don't know if you have a copy of that at all, but if you need that, I have 2 here. Do I have that?
I did not get the neighbors
Okay.
one.
So that was for the newspaper and then for the stakeholders as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Public comment? Public comment? Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Eaton. Yes. Lyman.
Yes.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Westwood.
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
New business, boundary relocation, airport.
Move to approve the proposed certificate of survey to amend airplane hangar units.
Second.
Discussion. Discussion at the table. Comments from the public. Comments from the public. Comments from the public. Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Eaton.
Yes.
Lyman.
Yes.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Westwood.
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Correspondence. How about number 11?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. You were ready for that one.
I was.
Pardon?